The Center for Advanced Studies in Child Welfare at the School of Social Work at the University of Minnesota presents a module by Dr. Ronald Rooney, Peter Dimock, and Vienna Rothberg, Motivational Interviewing Techniques in Child Welfare. There are three main objectives for this module. First, to understand the history and basic principles of motivational interviewing. Second, to gain experience with motivational interviewing techniques in action. And finally, to understand how motivational interviewing techniques can best be used within the field of child welfare. We will start this module with a brief history of motivational interviewing to ground our understanding of the technique. We will introduce the 5 basic principles of motivational interviewing and explore how motivational interviewing applies to the child welfare field. We will draw practical examples of motivational interviewing using a role play and interview with Peter Dimock. This module features modeling by Peter Dimock, MSW, a faculty member in the School of Social Work at the University of Minnesota. Peter has been a social worker for 30 years and was trained in motivational interviewing by William Miller over 10 years ago. The role play and interview were conducted in the fall of 2010. Throughout the module, we will highlight practical examples of challenges and methods for success using this approach within the field of child welfare. Motivational interviewing can be defined as a directive and client-centered counseling style used to elicit change in behavior by helping clients to explore and resolve ambivalence. The technique uses both style and technique to develop long-lasting behavior change. The history of motivational interviewing is interesting. In a randomized control trial of substance abuse counseling, significant positive effects were found among research participants in the control condition. This is to say, participants who received only brief contact with a counselor and a self-help pamphlet to take home showed improvement similar to that of participants subject to traditional substance abuse counseling. What resulted was a research field focused on empathy. Empathic expression was positively associated with an increase in health behavior change. A combination of warm and empathic style with guided questioning and reflective listening were found to have significant positive effects on behavior change. These became the hallmarks of motivational interviewing. There are 5 main principles in the motivational interviewing framework. Expressing empathy is an effective method to build rapport with a client. This building a safe and trusting, mutually respectful relationship is key to success with this technique and this population. In addition, empathy is crucial to effective caregiving, so modeling this type of support with parents or guardians in the child welfare system may work to support child welfare goals. Develop discrepancy. Active listening will increase your ability to identify discrepancies, either between expressed values and actions or goals and behaviors. Work with a client to develop a stronger understanding of the places where goals and present behavior or thinking have not yet met. Key to success with this is to avoid argument. The goal of motivational interviewing is to work in a directive yet collaborative way with a client to build a client's ability, skill, and desire to move toward a goal. So roll with resistance. Understand where a client's resistance may be coming from and check your own thought process to be able to locate where you might be adding your own resistance. It's imperative to understand the process of motivational interviewing is at all times collaborative. This is not to say that it's not directive. Motivational interviewing requires a therapist to be directive, but the most effective direction is done within a trusting, positive, and collaborative relationship. Finally, support self-efficacy. Given that each client will arrive with different abilities, efficacies, and challenges, supporting self-efficacy will mean something different in each relationship. One way of effectively supporting self-efficacy is to keep the client's goals and drives central to the work. Most child welfare clients are classified as involuntary. That is, they don't usually choose to meet with child welfare workers, but find that they must do so if they are to maintain or regain custody of their child or children. The challenge is then to enhance their motivation rather than to focus exclusively on the requirements and threats about what will happen if progress does not occur. Motivational interviewing is a framework best used with clients who have some level of internal drive to change. It's not a framework to use with entirely involuntary clients. That said, once you're conversant with these principles, you will likely deeply reconsider what it means to be involuntary in a therapeutic relationship. Many therapists find far more cooperation and internal drive when using this framework with a client who might otherwise have been thought of as an involuntary client. Now that we have an idea of the principles, let's move on to why this might be a good technique to use with clients in the field of child welfare. Motivational interviewing has been used effectively with a variety of populations and target behaviors. Some of these populations may be seen as either involuntary or perhaps partially involuntary, such as those seeking assistance with substance abuse issues. Motivational interviewing is a very useful framework for use in the child welfare field, as it is relational. This is to say that successful outcomes rely on the strength of the relationship between the client and practitioner. Motivational interviewing can be used to model both positive, directive, and collaborative communication with your client. These directive yet collaborative interactions can be used as modeling for successful parental interactions with children. Successful parenting and motivational interviewing techniques share many stylistic aspects. Expressing empathy guides therapists to share with clients their understanding of the client's perspective. Empathy can be shown both verbally and non-verbally. Expression of empathy implies and further engenders a sense of cooperation between people. In this first clip, Peter opens the session with a warm welcome and an open-ended question. Note how he uses both verbal and nonverbal cues to show both concern and interest in Julie.
Well, hi, Julie.
Hi.
It's been a while since we met last, and I'm just wondering how things are going.
Things are going. It's okay, I guess.
Yeah.
Kind
a
of
little
hard.
more. What's okay, what's not okay?
Note that even in the short 16 seconds, Peter offers first an open-ended question and then a directive question. The open-ended question allows the client to determine the topic, while the directive question allows Peter to purposefully guide the conversation. Empathic interaction is a hallmark of motivational interviewing. There are a variety of ways to exercise empathy. In this second clip, Peter summarizes what he has heard and names the emotion and affirms the experience before asking how he can help. Note both the language and the tone that he uses in the clip.
I'm pretty stressed, it sounds like.
Yeah, it is stressful.
Having to do all of these things and get around and make it to all your appointments is pretty overwhelming.
Yeah.
How can I help?
This type of empathy expression can be used to effectively communicate between client and practitioner, as seen here, and also between parent and child. Take a moment to imagine what this type of empathic, open-ended, and then directive questioning might look like between a child and parent. Developing discrepancy is not pointing out a fault, but rather skillfully helping a client identify where goals and beliefs are not matched or made possible by current behavior. Therapists should guide a client's exploration of the discrepancy between goals and current states of being, deeply held values and day-to-day behavior, and negative narratives and narratives of success. In this clip, we hear Julie describe both her day-to-day hopes and her associated challenges. Peter validates and reframes the conversation. He moves the list of challenges to an exploration of Julie's strengths with validation and a guiding question. How are you managing all of that?
So what else? How else can I help?
Well, I don't know. I'm just having a hard time, I have baby with me all the time now, and I just really want to be able to, get to my appointments on time, and and I'm just not making them all because I don't always have somebody to watch him, and I don't have I just don't get up in time, and so it's overwhelming. It's kind of hard that way.
So I hear that. I hear it's really tough to try to manage all of the things that you've got going on and the things that you've got to do, and I'm wondering, how are you managing that?
In this clip, we saw the client tell a story of struggle and failure. Peter sets the client up for outlining her successes within her narrative of failure. Peter is developing discrepancy in the narrative toward the goal of changing the client's perception and eventually her behavior. Rolling with resistance requires patience and the ability to think critically about one's own agenda and resistance within a session. Rolling with resistance guides therapists to accept clients' reluctance to change as natural rather than pathological. In the following clips, Peter and Julie move through a point of resistance about getting a GED. Julie is initially resistant to the idea, expressing the reasons it's too challenging. Peter offers a gentle resistance as he asks Julie to rate this goal on a scale of importance.
Well, let me ask you something. If we kind of created this scale, okay, and on one end there's a 0, and on the other end there's a 10, and down on the 0 is that school is the last thing on your list of importance, You wouldn't necessarily do it again if it wasn't something that, somebody was making you do. And a 10 is, this is really important. This is one of the things that I want most. And I'd do anything I could to get there. Where would you put yourself?
I don't know, maybe 5, somewhere in the middle. 5 maybe.
Why not a 0?
Because I know it's important. Like, I can't stay on MPhib forever, and I just could probably get a better paying job if I had my GED. I don't know, maybe I want my babies to see that I did good so that they don't drop out, so that they go to school maybe.
So
like
over
that.
on this side, if we had what are the things, the good things about getting a GED? You said, well, I provide an example to my child who could see that I've accomplished something. Maybe I could get a better paying job because you're not going to be on MPhib forever. Anything else that would be a positive about getting that GED?
Just maybe better paying jobs. I don't know.
Better paying job?
Yeah.
How would you feel about having it?
In this clip, Peter asks Julie to explain why getting a GED is not totally unimportant. This might be understood to be developing discrepancy. By eliciting Julie's own value system, Peter implicitly helps her clarify her position on the goal. He pushes her to think past the challenges and to envision how success might feel. Creating a scale is one technique to developing a sense of clarity around the importance of a goal to the client. In this second clip, they continue the conversation about the goal with further clarification on the goal. Julie helps further justify not pursuing the GED. Peter directs Julie to think about her confidence as the primary roadblock to the goal.
So it's important to you on one hand, and on the other hand, you don't feel confident in your ability to do it. Is that true?
Yeah. I mean, I haven't passed any of the tests, and I don't know, I just don't understand it. I have a really hard time with fractions and all that stuff you have to know to pass it, and I just can't do it.
Yeah.
And I'll be okay if I don't have, I mean, you can still get a job without having a GED. I mean, people are out there working all the time that haven't graduated, and, I could do it. It'd be maybe a little hard, but I could do it. I don't have to.
Well, you don't have to. No, it's nobody making you do it.
Yeah.
It's really, really something up to you. And yet, it sounds like it's something you would like. It has some value. It's important to you to some degree.
Yeah.
And then there's some things that, aren't so important. It's like, well, you could you can get a job. You can survive. You've done that already. You've managed, without it this far.
Yeah.
It's not like it's the end of the world if you don't get it.
Right.
And yet if you felt a little more confident in your ability, it might be something you'd move ahead with. Is that possible?
Note how Peter repeats and supports the points of resistance that Julie offers before reminding Julie of her own report that this goal is important to her. This exploration and enumeration of the reasons not to pursue a goal may be counterintuitive to many practitioners. This methodology requires a belief in the client's own ability to want and create positive change. In this final clip, Peter guides Julie toward action. Note how the resistance in the conversation has rolled between them, with both Peter and Julie taking turns offering both positive and negative reasons for pursuing the goal. Peter effectively directs Julie from a deeper evaluation of values toward action with what appears to be relative ambivalence on his part.
And yet if you felt a little more confident in your ability, it might be something you'd move ahead with. Is that possible?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. If somebody was able to, maybe tutor me or something, maybe one-on-one, or, I don't know, get some extra help, just so that, I'm having to do it, I have to do it, be accountable to them or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, that's worked for you. Let's just think about it for a minute. Somehow, the people that you have at Circle of Women, your LADC counselor, the groups that you go to, me calling you and reminding you. When you have somebody there that you're more accountable to than just kind of doing it on your own, it helps.
Yeah, it does, yeah.
So where do you think you might find a mentor or a tutor or somebody that could be of help to you with this?
Peter ends this final clip reminding Julie of past success with this plan that she has just proposed, and then asks her how she might pursue the plan. This brief mention of success is of the utmost importance, as Peter seeks to elicit positive feelings and build confidence. Notably, he mentions her lack of confidence as a possible barrier to success moments before, and now seeks to build it in the same conversation. This move toward eliciting change talk is an important step in motivational interviewing. The final principle in motivational interviewing is to support self-efficacy. This step guides therapists to explicitly embrace client autonomy, even when clients choose not to change, and to help clients move toward change successfully and with confidence. One important method of strengthening a client's sense of self-efficacy is to recognize achievement and to help develop a narrative of success. In this clip, Peter asks Julie how she maintains her sobriety currently, given that she has not had success with this goal in the past.
Tell me, how are you managing to maintain your sobriety? I think that's really great, but, you've been through treatment 3 times?
Yeah.
And that's a lot. And I'm just wondering how do you keep that going?
Well, I have a couple really good groups. One's my women's group, and they're just a really good support. I can call them up anytime I want, and they provide transportation, so I can, not have to worry about that, and we just really keep it real, and they're just a really good support. And I have a LADC that I have a really, really good relationship with, and she comes and does home visits, and she does the group for me and the women every other week. So so that's working really good.
So you've got a lot of support
Yep.
for your sobriety, and that's working well for you. That's good to hear.
Yeah.
How long has it been now since you've...
13 months.
13 months. Wow, long time.
Yeah.
Is that the longest that you've gone?
It's the longest I've been sober. No relapses, nothing.
Wow, amazing. I'm really, really pleased to hear that.
Thanks, it feels good.
Yeah.
Exception questions like Peter poses here help clients explore the mechanisms for success and successful patterns of behavior. In the second clip, Peter and Ron discuss the implications of using a checklist approach with clients. This is to say, to use the majority of time discussing the problems that need to be worked on while passing by the accomplishments.
Well, I think it's almost as if what you focus on is what you get. If you're focusing on problems and the things that the client is not doing in order to get to where you want to go, you're likely to fall short, because that person usually knows that. And lots of times what they're not so aware of is what they have accomplished. What are their strengths? What are the things that they can do, that they have done, that they can draw on as resources to tackle those things that they haven't been so successful at. So I think and there's good evidence for that basically the more somebody talks about the change, in other words, their actual steps or things that they're thinking about doing, which are the more the positive aspects, the more likely they are to actually change. So if you're talking about the negative, the things that somebody hasn't done, that's not likely to get you where you want to go.
In this clip, Peter offers understanding of why and how focusing on accomplishments will be more effective and helpful to the development of a client rather than focusing on the things to be worked on directly. This approach is counterintuitive to workers with limited time to work with clients, but evidence shows it's more effective than taking a more direct focus on the problems.